I am the eldest princess. At the victory banquet celebrating my years of campaigning and the defeat of the enemy nation. My own brother exposed my crimes before the world. She is a traitor who plotted rebellion. Amidst the crowd's gasps, he declared with righteous indignation. These are the weapons and imperial robes she secretly hoarded in her residence. He was crowned crown prince overnight. Yet my father stripped me of my military authority, ordered my immediate execution, and in despair, I chose to die with him. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the year of my campaign. Father handed me a farewell cup of wine. My child, the road ahead is fraught with peril. Is there any unfulfilled wish you hold? A cold smile touched my lips as I pointed at him. Father, grant this worthless man to be my vanguard, to march with me. My final memory of that life. The excruciating pain as guards thrust swords into my body. I pulled the blades from my flesh and aimed them at Zhou Yuan, shielded by layers of guards. Then, seizing a sword, I broke through the encirclement and plunged it into his heart. Die. Every last one of you. When I opened my eyes again, the unfamiliar scene before me left me stunned for 2 seconds, until I recognized the familiar gaits of Great Zhou and a much younger Zhou Yuan. Today he wore a yellow brocade robe, his hair held back only by a jade crown, radiating youthful vigor. Had I been reborn? And reborn on the very day I was to set out for battle. Seeing my inaction, he offered me a farewell cup of wine, smiling broadly as he said, wishing my imperial sister a smooth journey and a glorious victory upon your return. Ah! I snatched the cup and flung the wine forcefully into his face. Amid his disheveled shouts, I turned and slapped him across the face. You snatched my jade pendant yesterday. And now you dare show your face today? Who gave you the nerve? Zhou Yuan rubbed his face in disbelief, raising his fist to charge at me, only to be easily caught. Left with impotent rage, he screamed, "You bitch! Let me go! Father! Father! Save me! Enough!" The figure at the head of the table roared. I released my grip and struck him again. Brother! Stealing from others comes at a price. This farce began abruptly and ended just as swiftly, meeting my father's furious gaze. I took the farewell wine he offered and downed it in one gulp. Whether this is a return to the past or a deathbed hallucination, this lifetime, I only wish for them all to die. In my previous life, I died at the very peak of my glory. That day, holding the severed head of the Khan of Qi and wearing their national treasure jade pendant, I drank freely at the victory banquet held in my honor. Yet he suddenly stepped forward, shouting, "Sister! You dare hoard weapons and the imperial robe, plotting treason." As I stared in disbelief, he solemnly produced the evidence of rebellion seized from my residence. "Sister, I've always been proud of you. How could you do such a thing? Has father not been kind enough to you?" His outburst enraged father, who immediately named him crown prince, and decreed my execution at once. As the blade pierced my body, my vision blurred. I never imagined worldly affairs could be so dramatic. One moment I was a celebrated hero of Great Zhou, the next a criminal bearing unfounded charges. Coming to my senses, I heard father's insincere farewell. "My son, the road ahead is perilous. Is there any unfulfilled wish you hold?" I looked at Zhou Yuan, his face twisted with rage, his sleeves stretched out to hide the clear handprint on his cheek. I couldn't help but laugh, then pointed at him. "Father, please allow this good-for-nothing to serve as my vanguard and march with me." After a moment, I heard my father's hesitant consent. I swung onto my horse, cracked the whip, and rode off with flair. At dusk, as we camped, my deputy commander Qingyue slipped into my tent. The moment she saw me, she couldn't hold back and punched me. "Why did you have to bring that useless brother of yours? He's such a burden." I raised an eyebrow. "To kill him. Of course. Her head snapped up. What did you say? Not only kill him, I said, but seize his throne. Holy crap! She and I stepped out of the tent, strolling through the camp when we bumped into Yin Xiang. He was just a lowly soldier in the army, but the entire force knew he was the man Zhou Qin had set her heart on. Yin Xiang bowed his hands toward me, his intense gaze fixed on my face. Ah, Qin. It's been ages. I heard you petitioned His Majesty today to bring the prince along with the army. In my past life, every time I told him about my brother bullying me, he'd always comfort me, saying he was just young. That boy's being mischievous was perfectly normal. It seemed like consolation, but in truth, it was urging me to retreat again and again, to endure it all. Thinking of this, I kicked him to the ground without warning, grinding my shoe sole hard against his face. Have you lost your mind? Qin Yue, standing nearby, was shocked once more and hurried to pull me back. But Yin Xiang didn't struggle. He only gently stroked my foot. Not feeling well, Akin? In my past life, I only learned much later that Yin Xiang hadn't known me first, but my younger brother Zhou Yuan. Through his tip-off, he learned my travel plans ahead of time, staged a performance of selling himself to bury his mother before me, and was ultimately taken back into the military camp by me, who softened my heart and changed his lowly status. He always regarded Zhou Yuan as his savior, firmly supporting his desire to suppress and eliminate me. He even went so far as to feign admiration for me, swallowing his pride to curry favor, all to aid Zhou Yuan. At this thought, I tightened my grip on his arm. I never want to see you again. Get as far away from me as possible. I pulled my foot free and used his face like a rag to wipe the mud from my shoe. A flicker of panic crossed his face. Akin, don't you love me anymore? But you. I scoffed coldly and slapped him across the face. Can't you understand? I said, get out. After leaving, Qin Yun whispered to me, puzzled, asking if I had found another man I liked. Her question didn't surprise me at all, because in my past life, I loved him beyond redemption, utterly blinded by it. To help him escape his lowly status, I earned the reputation of a princess buying a lowly tavern, and was punished by my father, the emperor, to kneel outside the palace for 3 days and nights. Whenever I saw him injured during training, even covered in my own wounds, I'd tend to his injuries first. Hearing anyone mock his origins, I'd recklessly defend him, earning the enmity of many nobles. My devotion was known throughout the entire army. Yet he remained the hardest, coldest stone in that cesspool, and my intense love could never melt him. But now, reborn into this life, the depth of my past love has turned into the depth of my hatred. I no longer seek his true heart, I only want to tear it out. For the entire fortnight of our march, I never saw Zhou Yuan again. I knew he valued his pride above all else. Having been humiliated by me before, he wouldn't dare show his face anytime soon. But there was no rush. The real show was yet to come. Soon, the first clash between our armies arrived. Before battle, following ancient custom, both sides would send their mightiest generals to duel, vying for the first victory. The enemy sent their general first, a burly warrior wielding a hammer weighing dozens of pounds. I took the gleaming silver spear handed to me by a soldier and was about to mount my horse, when I spotted Zhou Yuan approaching in the distance, surrounded by his entourage. He wore golden armor and a red plume on his helmet, looking imposing and formidable. Your Imperial Highness, no matter how skilled you are still a woman. Do not die at the enemy's hands and shake the morale of our army. Instantly, skeptical gazes swept across the battlefield toward me. I straightened my back, returning their stares with piercing intensity. Brother, are you implying that as a man, you're confident in winning this first battle? Amidst the clamor of the battlefield, countless eyes turned to Zhou Yuan. I hear the young prince began martial training at 5 years old. His skills must be truly exceptional. Indeed. Wasn't it at 8 that he led troops to eradicate banditry in the Yuan Mountains? The young prince is quite right. How could the eldest princess, with her delicate frame, possibly match those burly generals across the field? Amidst the crowd's praise, Zhou Yuan smugly gestured at me, taunting, "Sister, you'd do better to return home and embroider. The battlefield is no place for a woman." Seeing him take the bait, a cold smile touched my lips. "Since you're so confident, brother, then show us what you've got. Let's see you bring glory to the great Zhou." No sooner had the words left my mouth than Zhou Yuan's smug expression deepened. He snatched the horse beside me and galloped toward the center of the battlefield. After a few fierce exchanges, as Zhou Yuan found himself outmatched and tried to retreat on horseback, his mount suddenly reared as if startled, throwing him hard to the ground. The enemy commander seized this opening, driving his hammer into Zhou Yuan's right leg. A piercing scream instantly filled the air. A flicker of amusement touched my eyes as I cracked my whip and charged into the fray. Though Zhou Yuan had trained in martial arts since childhood, his efforts were sporadic: 3 days fishing, 2 days drying nets. How could he compare to my relentless, unceasing practice? My silver spear had been honed to perfection. Within mere moments, the enemy general sought flight, but before he could turn his horse, my spear pierced him through the heart. I casually picked up Zhou Yuan, who was wailing on the ground, and tossed him onto my horse. You were the one who tried to harm me, tampering with that horse." I tugged at the corner of my lips, replying helplessly, "My dear brother, you seized that horse on a whim and sought this battle yourself. Don't try to pin all the blame on me. You betrayed your own men on the battlefield. Don't you fear defeat and the emperor's death sentence?" Defeat? I scoffed. That word has never graced my vocabulary. Backup account pushpin ID 18,249, 7,427, 15. I raised my silver spear and led the entire army into the fray. Instantly, the enemy was driven back in disarray. After the battle, as I wiped the blood from my armor, I saw Zhou Yuan being supported by his generals as he approached. His head held high with pride. He produced a golden token bearing the imperial seal. "See? What good is your victory? From this moment, I am the commander of this army. Dare to disobey, and you commit treason." My heart stabbed like a needle piercing it at the sight of that token. I knew father had always been dissatisfied with me. When I was young and wanted to study martial arts, I was punished by copying the women's code hundreds of times. During homework reviews, the slightest error earned me merciless beatings. Once, when I wished to keep a cute cat in the lonely palace, I met his disdainful gaze. "You may not. Girls only know how to play." Back then, I was young and couldn't discern the treacherous nature of people. I simply thought I hadn't done enough, for he was my wise and mighty father. How could he ever be wrong? It wasn't until my younger brother was born that I realized some people, even when they fall short, still receive praise and affection. Father personally taught him martial arts, and even when his movements were unsteady, he never heard a word of criticism. Sometimes when his lessons went wrong and the tutor complained, father would only pat his head and whisper words of comfort. When he grew upset, father would even gift him a puppy to lift his spirits. In my past life, I constantly choked on the need to prove myself. At 8, I dared to pledge military service to lead troops against bandits. At 10, I personally journeyed to a plague-stricken zone to quell rebellion. Even when credit was stolen, I still blamed my own inadequacy. Only after reincarnating did I finally understand. The love of others is like flowers in water, or the moon in a mirror. Only by learning to love oneself does one truly possess love. This victorious campaign ended with my military authority being stripped away. Because Zhou Yuan had his leg shattered by an enemy general. The emperor personally brought the capital's finest imperial physicians to the battlefield to tend to him. Only after his leg was mostly healed did the emperor finally summon me. I commanded you to lead the troops into battle. How could you fail to protect even your own brother? My eyes brimming with grievance. I choked out my defense. I was supposed to lead the charge. But my brother insisted on going himself, claiming I couldn't fight because I'm a woman. Besides, he only survived because I saved him. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten away with just one leg lost. Zhou Yuan, lying on the stretcher nearby, heard this and abruptly lifted his head, about to curse. I pressed on defiantly, actually. My brother fought quite bravely. He took about 3 blows from the enemy commander before he fell. No sooner had the words left my mouth than a ripple of quiet laughter rippled through the tent. Amidst the laughter, Father Emperor's face darkened. Very well. Considering you saved your brother, this time you shall receive only 20 military strokes. Go receive your punishment. After enduring those strokes, Zhou Yuan and I were utterly estranged. I laced his food with laxatives. When he led his troops to defeat again, I taunted him mercilessly. I crippled his trusted confidants in the army through various accidents. My dear brother, how have you been lately? I asked with a smile. When you're unhappy, do you run to your dear Father Emperor to tattle again? The candlelight flickered with my movements. He stared at me, his eyes flashing with fear and resentment, then suddenly drew the sword at his side. Alas! He couldn't overpower me. Left sprawled on the floor, he roared furiously. You wretched woman! You'll pay for this. I'll make you suffer. I arched an eyebrow. Come at me, if you can endure my retribution. He froze, stunned that the once submissive me would now threaten him so openly. I delivered another kick, finally feeling satisfied. Indeed, one shouldn't waste energy on internal struggles, external release brings true joy. Ultimately, he went to complain to Father Emperor. Father Emperor sent men to escort me before his tent, where I knelt, clutching the wounds from the last beating. I collapsed pitifully onto the ground. Father, since my last beating, I've returned to rest and reflect. I deeply regret my actions toward my brother and am filled with remorse. My grief has hindered my recovery. I can barely walk now, how could I possibly trouble my brother? Amidst sympathetic gazes, Father could only sigh and wave his hand, ordering me confined for 2 days. Everyone in the army could see Father's partiality and his disgust toward me. After my confinement ended, Qingyun came to vent, your father's bias knows no bounds. No wonder you treated your brother so badly before. I smiled resignedly, people always say there are no bad parents in the world. To me, that sounds like an excuse for irresponsible people. She nodded in agreement. Since you're in a tight spot now, next time you take revenge on your brother, drag me along. I can't stand him either. Stealing his throne is the retribution he deserves. In my past life, when I was falsely accused and sentenced to immediate death, only she stood firmly by my side, helping me break through the encirclement, giving me the chance to stab that good-for-nothing to death. Otherwise, I'd never rest in peace. I clasped her hand and smiled. If I actually succeed in seizing it, I'll appoint you Grand Marshal. Life continued amid our back-and-forth skirmishes. While nursing my wounds, I reminisced. 10 days hence, the enemy would set an ambush near South Mountain to lure our forces in. In my past life, I had fought my way through their ambush, discovered their grain storehouse, and set it ablaze, turning the tide of battle. This memory sparked an idea in my mind. I summoned Yin Xiang, who had since risen to deputy general. Gently linking my arm through his, I said, Ian Lang. I've grown restless confined to camp these days. Might I borrow a horse to ride the countryside? Coaxed by my words, he finally agreed. That night, under the starlight, I quietly slipped away to the enemy's grain depot. Returning to camp, I excitedly called him over, my face aglow with excitement. Ian Lang. Guess what I found? His expression turned puzzled, then abruptly changed upon hearing my answer. He then embraced me tenderly, his voice deepening. It's too dangerous for you to lead soldiers alone to burn the enemy's supplies. I don't want you going to such a perilous place. Why not let the young prince take your place? Wouldn't that be better? I sneered inwardly, yet my expression betrayed hesitation. But, his arms tightened around me, his chin resting lightly on my shoulder. I sighed, brushing his cheek. Ian Lang, let me think it over. Our private conversation was inevitably leaked to Zhou Yuan. He stormed into my tent, agitated. You found the enemy's grain depot, didn't you? Tell me now. I cursed him inwardly as a fool, yet my face promptly clouded with feigned confusion. Brother, what are you talking about? How could I possibly know the location of the enemy's grain storehouse? Stop pretending. Tell me honestly, and I might even share some credit with you. How laughable. Has this man literally glued one cheek to the other? One side utterly shameless, the other thick-skinned. I lifted my head, staring at the greed etched on his face. Even if I knew, why would I tell you? My dear brother? Can't you find it yourself? So eager to steal others' glory, truly a good-for-nothing. After Zhou Yuan stormed off, Yin Xiang returned to my tent that night. Akin. Don't be angry. It's all my fault, I couldn't resist boasting about your achievements. And the young prince overheard. If you truly wish to go, I'll accompany you. Come what may. His words rang firm. Yet when I met his gaze, I saw him carefully avert his eyes. In that instant, a wave of fury surged through me. I couldn't understand why his sweet words, though seemingly brimming with affection, always left me feeling like I'd swallowed shards of glass when I savored them. And though I couldn't speak such sweet words myself, every sentence I uttered overflowed with love so thick it threatened to spill over. I remember how, whenever he felt wronged, I would always stand up for him, even if it left me battered and bruised. Yet when I faced injustice, he'd tell me not to hold it against the young prince. I believed his lies, truly thinking his mischief stemmed from childhood innocence. I even gave him the credit I'd earned through life-threatening struggles, hoping he'd become an emperor his subjects would admire. But my endless concessions only earned me false accusations of treason. Those non-existent weapons and imperial robes? That scum Yin Xiang planted them secretly. I held back my rage, tears falling from my eyes. Ian Lang, with your words, I fear no danger, but I cannot rest easy without you. Tell me the location first, so I may prepare. In his handsome eyes, a hint of pleading surfaced, like a puppy begging for its master's affection. In that moment, I felt a wave of disgust and could no longer bear to continue this charade. I leaned close to his ear and spoke, enunciating each word. The provisions are stored. As the last syllable left my lips, I saw him quietly exhale in relief. This charade was beyond my endurance. I shoved him away, signaling for him to get lost. That night, unusually, I didn't lie awake. Instead, I unexpectedly dreamt of what came after my death. After plunging the sword into that worthless man's chest, I could no longer stand and collapsed to the ground. Soon after, the imperial physician hurried in. In the palace hall, Mother clutched Father's hand and demanded, "You clearly said you only wanted her military authority. Why kill her?" Father coldly brushed her hand away and replied in a frosty tone, She commands too much respect in the army. Even stripped of her command, she'd remain a threat. Do you wish to leave a stumbling block for you, honor? Mother retreated several steps before collapsing. But she is our daughter. A heavy silence fell over the hall. The imperial physician ultimately failed to save Zhou Yuan's life. As the emperor raged, a guard burst in, frantically reporting, "Your Majesty, General Yin has surrounded the palace, claiming to avenge the eldest princess." I awoke from my dream, drew the sword beside my bed, and swung it at the table nearby. With a crack, the table split clean in two. Staring at the shattered wood, I felt the raging fire within my heart burn as fiercely as ever. Zhou Yuan, Yin Xiang, father, just wait. If hell won't claim you villains, I'll see to it myself. On the day the enemy forces mobilized, I was leading soldiers out of the city with my silver spear in hand when I encountered Zhou Yuan. He wore a narrow-sleeved riding outfit, his head crowned with a golden cap adorned with dragon motifs, a design reserved solely for emperors. One glance told me everything. Father must have felt his authority in the army was lacking, deliberately permitting him to break protocol and wear such regalia to bolster his prestige. Two bad armies have always spoken with fists. What's the rush, Your Highness? Could it be you've grown weary of this army and seek refuge with the enemy? He ranted on, flaunting his power. But I couldn't be bothered. I merely replied, "Your leg's healed, so you've forgotten the pain, eh?" Then, amid his furious roar, I swung onto my horse. Just as I was about to exit the camp gates, a soldier appeared. "Princess, General Yin requests your presence." I tossed my reins aside and trudged impatiently toward his tent. Inside the darkened chamber, he lay weakly on the bed, appearing to have only a thread of life left. I approached the bedside and studied him closely. His face was deathly pale as he spoke slowly. "Akin, I've suddenly caught a chill and cannot accompany you. I'm truly sorry." He handed me a silk pouch. "I sewed this pouch for you myself. May it keep you safe on your journey home in my stead. Inside is your favorite osmanthus blossom. Smell it, doesn't it smell sweet?" I took the pouch and held it to my nose. A faint osmanthus fragrance wafted up. I tucked the pouch away and turned to leave, but my steps suddenly felt unsteady. Before I could react, my body began tumbling backward uncontrollably. I braced for the agonizing impact of hitting the ground, only to fall unexpectedly into a warm embrace. He had appeared behind me unnoticed, his deep voice calling my name. "Akin, don't blame me. No matter how skilled you are, the battlefield is no place for a woman to run wild. Let the young prince take this opportunity instead." With that, he laid my unconscious form upon the bed. In my stupor, I seemed to revisit memories of a past life once more. In the dream, Yin Xiang called my name over and over in his voice brimming with tenderness. When I poured out my troubles to him, he would storm off to scold his younger brother. Father was utterly devoted to me, crowning me crown princess at a tender age. Zhou Yuan, though sometimes mischievous, would always gather things I loved to cheer me up. This dream was too beautiful. So beautiful I wanted to drown in it forever. If only it were real. I struggled awake, muttering, "It's all fake. All fake." Yin Xiang hadn't expected me to wake so suddenly. Before he could react, my fist slammed hard into his head. "You dared drug me? You deserve to die." Yin Xiang let out a wail and scrambled toward the tent flap in panic. But I grabbed him by the collar and flung him back onto the bed. I yanked his head up and slammed it hard against the bed frame again and again. The bed creaked under the impact, droplets of blood trickling down the rail onto the floor. "Akin, I was wrong. Spare me. Spare me." Blood covered his entire face. I released him and stood up. My body, still dazed from the drugs, hadn't fully recovered, and my strength was only half restored. But it didn't matter. I lowered my gaze to him, lifeless from excessive blood loss. Bending down, I wiped the blood from my hands forcefully onto his clothes. Then, with a casual turn, I walked out of the tent. Outside, as expected, only my personal guards remained. The other soldiers had been taken by Zhou Yuan to burn the provisions. Your Highness, I've been waiting for you. Qing Yun hurriedly handed me my silver spear. Without time for explanation, I spurred my horse westward with my guards. Your Highness, this isn't the direction the young prince and the others went. Shouldn't we join them? I quickened my pace, cracking my whip as she watched in confusion. That useless fool is heading straight into the enemy's ambush. We're heading to where Qi truly stored their supplies. How could I possibly give Zhou Yuan the real location? This victory belongs to me, no one can take it away. We galloped swiftly and soon reached the enemy's supply depot. With most of the enemy's main force drawn away by Zhou Yuan, we quickly eliminated the remaining troops and burned the provisions. Upon returning to camp, we happened upon Zhou Yuan leading a band of defeated stragglers back. He froze in place upon seeing me. How are you here? You gave me the false coordinates. Didn't you? You intended to kill us all. A clamor erupted around us. What? The princess knew it was a trap and deliberately sent us to our deaths. The most venomous heart belongs to a woman. The soldiers around me now glared at me with unspeakable hatred. Seeing this, Zhou Yuan poured fuel on the fire, shouting accusations at me. You told me the enemy's supplies were hidden in the south. You vile woman. Helping the enemy slaughter our own men. As the crowd raged against me, I didn't rush to defend myself. Instead, I pressed my spear against his throat and signaled my guards to remove my armor. Beneath it, layer upon layer of scars were revealed before everyone's eyes. Those bloody wounds silenced the crowd instantly. I tightened my grip on the spear. Its sharp tip instantly slit his throat. Blood dripped from the spear onto his collar. Watching Zhou Yuan shriek in terror at the mere sight of blood, I spoke calmly. As commander, you failed to verify intelligence before rashly deploying troops. This is incompetence. Instead of seeking vengeance against the enemy, you slander your own comrades. This is injustice. His Majesty entrusted you with command, placing great hopes in you. Yet you fled back like a stray dog. That is disloyal. I paused, staring at his drained face, and let the corners of my mouth curve upward. Had I not discovered the enemy's true grain storage and forced their retreat, do you think you'd have survived to return? Amidst the uproar, my father, who had been feigning death, was finally compelled to intervene. He unleashed a torrent of anger, imposing confinement on both of us. That night, I slipped out of the camp to find food. Qing Yun, stationed outside the tent, caught me red-handed. She carefully pulled 2 still warm buns from her bosom and handed them to me. I knew you'd be hungry tonight. Eat quickly. Watching me wolf down the food, her eyes brimmed with pity. Without you, the entire army would have been wiped out, let alone forcing the enemy to retreat. That dog emperor still has the nerve to confine you and withhold food? He deserves to die. I patted her shoulder with a smile, reassuring her. He's been deserving of death for ages. One day, they'll pay the price. After seeing Qing Yun off, I slipped back into the tent. There, I found an unexpected figure clad in bright yellow. Kneel! A stern command rang in my ears. I didn't move, standing straight and tall. Your humble son does not know what offense has incurred your majesty's such wrath. You unfilial son, why did you feed your brother false information, leading to his death? If anyone should die, it should be you. Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. The father emperor I remembered, always steady as a mountain, could actually rage like this. You're nothing but a madman. A madman. listening to his furious tirade. I felt a sudden daze. I couldn't fathom when we, who used to wrestle playfully as children, had become enemies who must kill each other. Is familial affection truly impossible within royalty? Were my brother and I destined from birth to be mortal enemies? I could find no answers. Staring at his merciless face, I shouted back, "The root of this enmity between us, isn't it you who sowed it? Your Majesty. Have you never heard the saying, when children are estranged? It's often the parent's lack of virtue." The moment the words left my mouth, the shrill insults ceased. I looked at him, only to see him furiously slamming his fist on the table. "You dare defy me? Defy me? From this day forward, you will return to the imperial temple in the capital. Without my command, you are forbidden to leave." My eyes held no fear. I retorted, "A life of seclusion? Do you think I fear that? You dare not kill me. Do you? For only I can hold back the iron cavalry of Qi. Only I can safeguard your throne. In my past life, I was treated as a tool to secure his imperial seat, sent everywhere to quell rebellions and soothe the people. Alas! When true peace finally came to the realm, it was like the proverb, when the birds and beasts are gone, the bough is put away. But in this life, the realm I protect, only I am worthy to ascend that throne. I was escorted back to the imperial temple in the capital in a grand procession, and all the events unfolding at the frontier were relayed to the capital, stirring up quite a commotion within the city. Imperial affairs have always been the people's favorite pastime over tea and meals. But what's different this time is that, because of the words I spoke, each one a pearl of wisdom, many common folk have sided with me. The eldest princess truly embodies noble righteousness. Indeed, to endure such slander yet set aside past grievances to lead troops in rescue, what courage and wisdom. Oh, in my opinion, what's so praiseworthy about that? Isn't it simply what an elder sister ought to do? Exactly. The young prince may lack skill in both governance and warfare, but after all, he is a man. These events spread like wildfire throughout the capital. Upon hearing the news, Mother rushed to see me at the imperial temple. "My child has suffered so much out there. Your father grows more senile with age. I've already written to your father, demanding he release you. After this, you must never return to the battlefield. Stay safely by my side. I'll find you a suitable husband, and we'll live a peaceful life." I gazed into her eyes, brimming with concern, yet shook my head firmly. A parent's love for their child is profound and far-reaching. When I was young, whenever my younger brother angered me, she would always punish him to vent my frustration. But later, with the emperor's interference, my brother grew increasingly arrogant and tyrannical, and Mother gradually lost her ability to discipline him. I knew none of this was her fault. I took her hand and placed it in mine. Our hands clasped tightly together, like two vines sharing the same root, intertwining and supporting each other. I nestled into her embrace, murmuring, "Mother, why must the throne be inherited only by men? Am I not more capable than my brother?" The arms holding me stiffened momentarily. Then a soft voice whispered in my ear, "If you wish to do it, then do it. Your mother will always stand behind you." Under my mother's protection, I began to aggressively expand my own power base. I opened the latest secret letter, which read, "Your Highness, the main army will return to the city in 3 months. All is proceeding smoothly thus far. Half the commanders in the camp have already been won over. Please advise on the next course of action. Qin Yun." With the border affairs settled, I resolved to journey to Jiangnan. They say Jiangnan is splendid. Its scenery once familiar. Along the lanes of Jiangnan, lively cries of vendors filled the air, nibbling on a string of candied hawthorn berries. I recalled a secret I'd overheard in my past life. In Jiangnan lived a wealthy merchant surnamed Lin, whose riches rivaled a nation's, and who even held vast iron ore deposits. Should we capture this man? The most difficult problems, weapons and money, would be solved effortlessly. That night, I secretly infiltrated the Lin residence. Passing through the garden, I overheard whispers. Hidden in the shadows, I recognized one figure by moonlight, Lin Yu, the son-in-law of the Lin family. Did the mistress take the medicine today? Facing him stood a woman dressed as a servant. Master, what if the mistress discovers us? What will become of us? Lin Yu embraced her, reassuring her. She won't. The dose is too small each time for her to notice. When she goes into labor and dies from complications, this vast fortune will be ours alone. Watching the two of them so intimate, it dawned on me. So the previous generation's mistress died in childbirth because the son-in-law had tampered with things. I found a way to meet with the current mistress of the Lin household. Meeting her for the first time, even in her pregnancy, she couldn't hide the sharpness in her demeanor. I cut straight to the point. I've heard the Lin family head is kind-hearted. But if this vast fortune falls into the hands of those with ill intent, I wonder if such kindness would endure. She paused, her voice deepening. What exactly do you mean, young lady? I sipped my tea and spoke slowly. When I mentioned their plans, a flash of murderous intent flickered in her eyes. Thank you, young lady. I must verify these matters. Please wait a moment. Before I finished my cup of tea, she returned. Noticing the bloodstain on her sleeve, I gave her an approving look. This woman dared to love and hate fiercely. Acting decisively, no wonder she amassed such a vast fortune. Thank you, Miss Zhou, for saving my life. I have no way to repay you. Whatever you need, just say the word. I set down my cup and stared at the tiger painting on the wall as I spoke slowly. Does the head of the Lin family wish to be remembered in history? After returning from Jiangnan, I used the Lin family's wealth to massively recruit private soldiers and win over court officials. While I was busy building my power base, Zhou Yuan wasn't idle either. He had people spread his fabricated military achievements throughout the capital, earning him some praise. He really has grown accustomed to stealing credit. I wonder whose efforts he's shortchanging this time. I gave a mocking laugh, climbed into the sedan chair, passed through the palace gates, and entered the grand hall. I'd spent ages preparing for this celebratory banquet. The moment I stepped inside, Qingyun, who'd been waiting, pulled me away. She studied me closely. You seem different somehow? Really? I asked. She nodded firmly. You carry more of an emperor's presence now. I patted her shoulder teasingly. Well, you're looking more and more like a great general yourself. Amidst the banter, Zhou Yuan strode into the hall with an air of triumph. Upon seeing me, he froze abruptly in his tracks. I greeted him with a smile. My dear brother, it's been an age. Are you surprised to see me? Eager to know why that poison failed to kill me at the Imperial Temple? My voice carried loud enough for everyone in the hall to hear, their eyes widening in shock. Someone dared to ask if I was joking. I cried out in feigned grief. I can't believe it either, that poison was administered by my own brother. Thank heaven for my luck, the pastry was knocked over and accidentally eaten by the temple cat. Otherwise, I would have been the one to die. My heart-wrenching account gradually turned the crowd's glances toward Zhou Yuan with anger. Standing there, he had no defense. He could only utter a few harsh words before slipping away. Just as the banquet reached its peak, Zhou Yuan sprang into action again. He suddenly knelt in the center of the hall and shouted, "Father Emperor! The eldest princess has attempted treason." Treason? At these words, most of the court officials glanced at me discreetly. I curved my lips, signaling them not to act rashly, and continued sipping my wine. Is this true? The emperor's face darkened as he fixed his gaze upon me, his voice thick with lethal intent. Before Zhou Yuan could continue his slander, I drew the soft sword concealed at my waist and thrust it toward him. Recalling the grudges of my past life, I increased the force behind my strike. Zhou Yuan collapsed instantly, screaming in agony. Zhou Qin, are you plotting rebellion? I am your own brother. How dare you attack me? I drew my blade and thrust it forcefully into his heart. The sound of shattered bones echoed beneath my hand. After a few agonized wails, Zhou Yuan fell utterly still. Caught off guard, the emperor stared at me in utter horror. How dare you? Protect the emperor! Protect the emperor! The guards outside the hall had long been subdued by my men. The ministers within the hall, meeting my gaze, lowered their heads one after another, avoiding my eyes. Zhou Qin, you dare to kill your father. Do you not fear the condemnation of the entire realm? Do you think you can hold the throne for long, merely by virtue of being a woman? I watched the impotent, raging emperor and sneered coldly. The people of this realm care not whether the throne is held by man or woman. They care only who can feed them, clothe them warmly, and protect this nation's peace. With that, I advanced step by step toward the dragon throne. The emperor, both shocked and enraged, tried to flee, but he was utterly useless. No match for me at all. The sword pierced his chest, and he instantly drew his last breath. I withdrew the blade, turned around, and the ministers immediately knelt, shouting, "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor!" As the year drew to a close, the capital's drunken immortal bustled with crowds, abuzz with excitement. Amidst enthusiastic cheers, the storyteller struck his gavel and declared, "Last time, we recounted how His Majesty personally led the army to conquer the Dragon Kingdom. Today, we continue the tale of his legendary life." The end.